So this is a tough spot for the UAE in particular, isn't it? Because we got lower oil prices putting a major strain on this country in terms of their revenues and, frankly, the liquidity in the banks. But at the same point, there is an area of your business which is doing very, very well. And, of course, that is online orders. Walk us through how you've redistributed the business.
Thank you, Hadley. Well, it is absolutely, a great ordeal that we're all living globally. And our situation here is not better than elsewhere, I would say, except on what seems to be so far a more contained situation. The measures that are in place are absolutely needed, and I hope that will shorten this period of lockdown and the cost on the economy. Our business across the region is actually in shutdown, except our grocery retail business, with our Carrefour business. That's doing relatively well. Online, of course, is soaring. We're talking about a 300% increase in demand, and that is something that we're seeing across the region. So, for example, Egypt has increased about 700%, and compared to last year, while the UAE is about 290%, and KSA is about 1,400%. So naturally, you would expect people to shift there, and given the demand, what we have been doing is redeploying our workforce in order to preserve it and also cope with what we have, how we have to serve our customers. So we're seeing a lot. We've deployed more than 1,000 of our colleagues from our traditional businesses that have been shut down, like our cinema business, some of our shopping mall business, etc., into our Carrefour business, both online and offline. And I expect this to continue for the foreseeable future. Of course, we're going to be redeploying more of this workforce, so our ability to actually reskill in a fast way within days and then redeploy people is critical in order to meet the demand of a population that is actually in lockdown, although this is applied differently across the region.
Now, Alain, you know this place better than most people. I mean, you've worked out in this region, obviously, your entire life, and you're very much focused on what the growth looks like, frankly, for the GCC countries. But for a country like this one, which gets so much of its revenue and so much of its growth outside of the oil sector directly from F&B and from tourism, how concerned are you about what's going to happen in the UAE over the next year?
To be honest with you, Hadi, I'm not really concerned. I'm concerned about the timing. How long is it going to take for us to be able to actually deal with the situation internally? I think tourism it's a given that is not going to come back in the coming months. I don't expect tourism to come back before early 2020. Given the situation, when would we find a cure, vaccines, new protocols to ensure people health and safety? With regard to the UAE is extremely resilient as a market. We've seen that in the past few years, and we're seeing that today. We have about a population of 9.5 million people across the UAE. I think a lot of, especially when you look at Dubai is a great hub for travel. Most of the residents are continuously traveling. It's a big plus, of course. The tourism is a big contributor, but with the resident population that is traveling less as well, I think that could sustain an acceptable level of economy until things come back. So I do not see a big hit post, I would say, the direct pandemic impact, although it will definitely have a larger hit across the region because some of the economies around us are not as resilient as this one.
Hi, Alain. It's Matt here in Singapore joining the conversation. What about the hit from the postponement of big events like Expo 2020? I mean, this was meant to be the UAE's year with this significant event. Now that we're hearing that is likely to be postponed by 12 months, what is that going to do to the business sectors that you operate in, like malls and like hotels?
I mean, look, in reality, life is going to basically be pushed by a year. Everything that was going to happen in 2020 is going to be pushed to 2021 at best, in my opinion. So, I mean, like Tokyo Olympics, it was a natural decision to get to this recommendation, and I personally think that it will be, of course, endorsed by General Assembly of Expo. It just makes sense. You cannot hold a global event in October that will start in October of 2020, given where we are. So I think it's a logical, it's a rational decision. The question is, most of what was going to come with it will come later. And for me, the question continues to be, is Expo going to have the same impact that it was going to have in 2020 in a world that was so connected and in a world where traveling was becoming more and more ubiquitous? I'm not sure if the travel industry and the tourism industry will come back the way it used to be, or it will take until 2022, 2023 for it to come back the way it was meant to be.
No doubt about it. This is going to cause some serious thinking at the highest levels about what to do in the coming year. But my question to you is, how has this changed your thinking? Because obviously something that you and I have discussed multiple times in the last couple of years is how the business of malls is changing, and so much is done online, and really moving away from regular retail to an experience-oriented business. What does this do to your outlook now? I mean, basically you're needing to prepare for things like the possibility of a pandemic. As a mall operator, how does this change things for you?
I think things are accelerating. The way we've seen the world moving digital within a span of few weeks. And I think the experiential side, experiencism, is actually going to become much more stronger. People will want experiences that are much more fulfilling and will be much more demanding on that front. Simply, we're redeploying our people. We're also going to re-engineer our businesses. And we're going to be investing the coming few months in order to try to figure out how the world is going to look post-COVID-19. I personally really believe that a lot of what we're doing until February 2020, is going to be very different post-2020. I believe that shopping malls will continue to be there. They continue to be strong, but they're going to be much more experience-driven. The choices that we offer people are going to be very, very different. I think a lot of the retailers that we are seeing today, that you're hearing more and more with the news in the U.S. of large retailers furloughing people, we will have to have a totally different proposition to the customers going forward. A lot of them will need a lot of help. But in terms of business, it's going to be much more experience, much more digital, and we are going to see basically the soaring in the online business, that is a digital business that's going to become much more confirmed in the future across the region and multiplied, in my view, exponentially globally. That will change supply chains, that will change the way we travel, that will change the way we use hotels. So a lot of that will have to be reinvented, and I don't think anyone has an answer to this. I think my answer is we definitely have to do it. We have 12 months to figure out the future.
Alain, before I let you go, I got to ask you, and certainly with regards to the online ordering and the Carrefour business that you guys run, what's been the most surprising thing that people are taking out of the stores? I mean, globally, we're seeing the rush for toilet paper. What's been happening in this neck of the woods?
Well, here it has been liquid soap. Liquid soap demand has increased by 1,000%. Hand sterilizers, sanitizers have increased by about 17 times. So I think different parts of the world are focusing on different things, but it's the same theme. It's all about personal hygiene and sanitization.
Great stuff. Alain Bejjani, thanks so much for joining us this morning.